someone in my life that I was like struggling with this very thing with. And it was just like a clay figure of them. And it was like they showed like a butter knife just cutting it down the middle, and the pieces fell aside, the body fell aside, and inside was this beautiful flower. And the flower was the soul. And the message was nurture the flower. So like in those relationships where you have the energy to do that with, you say like, okay, so is when it's a hard situation, when they're doing the thing that you know they're going to do, you just say like, okay, well, is this the soul or is this the ego? And what I realized after 2 years of thinking about this whole thing is when you're like catering to their ego, it actually does zero good. It doesn't do them any good because the ego is a bottomless pit that can never be satisfied. It doesn't do you any good because the ego is a bottomless pit that can never be satisfied. So you'll just be exhausted trying. If you're feeding their ego, it's just growing their ego. And that's not what we want, right? Like, we don't want more ego
Right.
on this planet. We want more love.
Emotionally unavailable.
Okay. So I really am having a hard time. I don't do scripted questions, right? And so
Yep.
I'm having a hard time. I I don't know if I want to start with past life regression or with self-hypnosis, because as I was reading some of the stuff you said, I was like, I wonder if that's what I'm doing and don't even realize it when I'm like getting into different energy to kind of overcome something, whatever. So I think I just answered my own question. Let's get into self hypnosis
Yeah.
first, because
Let's do it.
I really want to know how you define that, describe that. Like, what is that?
So self-hypnosis can is a very broad term, actually. So like what you're
Okay.
talking about, yes, you put yourself into self-hypnosis regularly. Everybody does throughout the day. When you drive home and you're coming back from the grocery store or someplace that you'll go often, or dropping the kids off at school, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm home, because you were so deep in thought that you just kind of went on autopilot. That's self-hypnosis.
Okay.
You're processing something really deeply, like if you close your eyes and you're doing like a little sort of a light meditation, but you're going in with a goal, and you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to meditate on this and see if I can center myself and come to the answer that I've been looking for. That's self-hypnosis. It's like
Oh.
so non-mystical, and it seems like such a mystical thing, like, oh, hypnosis.
Yeah,
Nope,
yeah.
this is just something we do regularly. And so what I do with my podcast is we go into self-hypnosis sessions and I guide you in, but it's self-hypnosis because
Oh.
you're not talking back to me. So when it becomes hypnotherapy is when we're responding back and forth. So in hypnotherapy, I can
Oh.
talk to you and you can answer me and stay in the hypnotic state. Self-hypnosis is just you're being guided. It's kind of it's the only difference between self-hypnosis, guided self-hypnosis, and guided meditation is guided meditation, you're going in and you're just letting the experience happen. And I do that on my podcast as well. Like, we do a lot of guided meditations, and those are just like healings and beautiful scenery and deep relaxation. Self hypnosis is when you're actually actively seeking a result. So, say we're
Mm.
doing like something, okay, so like a really great area could be like, I do a lot of deep relaxation, and a deep relaxation that you're going into the forest, the angels are healing you, you feel beautiful and light energy. That's a guided meditation. A self-hypnosis for relaxation where I'm saying, okay, now talk to your body and tell yourself, relax, and we've already prepped you to think about all of the chemicals that your body releases when you send those signals to it. That's more of a self-hypnosis because you're kind of working with your body and you have this direct goal and you're actually taking actions toward
Oh.
it. So you're kind of you're more participating in the experience, whereas like a guided meditation, you're just sort of letting it happen to you, you
Okay,
know? So
so then you tell me which one this is.
okay.
This is one example of me like changing my energy. If I'm really anxious about something, this is something I have to do when I'm anxious about a social situation. So I say, how do I want to feel when this is over? And the feeling I want is kind of always the same, which is calm, cool, collected, confident, my highest self, blah, blah, blah. So I go to what I call my happy place. And my happy place is me on like a beach at sunset where it's just starting. So it's like all across the horizon. real pinky. In Oklahoma, we have great sunsets. Um, but like, and the sand is wet, and I'm just like arms out, smiling, basking in the sun. Like every time I picture that, I'm right there. Is that
So
meditation or hypnosis?
that's funny because it's kind of a gray area. So what you've done is you've created an anchor for yourself, and that's a hypnotic technique, but it's an NLP technique. So we use those in hypnosis all the time. So neuro linguistic programming. So you've connected an image and feeling and an in total and complete scene to this feeling of relaxation. So you've
Uh-huh.
created an anchor for yourself, and then you're going to go in and you're going to experience. I would call it self hypnosis. Yeah. Because you're going
Okay.
in. You've deliberately created this space for yourself and you're revisiting it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that's
and
an
the first
NLP.
time I really did something like that was with a coach who get offered me a free session because
Mhm.
I had her on my show. I say yes to free shit. I'm like, "Yes." Um, and so she's like, "Well, how can I coach you?" And I really couldn't think of anything, but I did have an event coming up the next day that I was nervous to go to. Because I was expecting something from myself that's not natural, and I was trying to like masculine myself into this outgoing, energy. I'm not. Like, I am if we're talking like this, but
Mhm.
you put me in a thing where there's going to be a little bit of small talk, I'm out. I hate
Yeah.
that. I
Me
hate
too.
it so much.
Me
And
too. I
so,
hate
like,
it. Yeah.
if I envision you coming right up and being like, let's connect deeply. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm gonna jump right in with you. But when I
Mhm.
envisioned, hi, I'm Melissa. Yes, this is what I do. Blah blah blah. I was like, She pointed out, like, do you see that you're contracted and bracing? Like, she's like, because I'm picturing you over in that corner, contracted and bracing. And I'm like, I'm picturing me in the corner. You're exactly right. And so, kind of
Yeah.
walking myself through, like sitting up, relaxed, being a receiver of the energies in the room, that, like, if contacts and connections were meant to happen, they will just flow in naturally, and I will respond naturally. So that was like a whole thing, but then to finally, like, get into that completely relaxed energy, I kinda, like, walked my body through the relax, like, quit
Yeah.
being tense, quit bracing, quit, whatever, and then my last step is always the happy place, like, always.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so what I would say is, like, if you can put yourself into, like, anywhere you are, like, if you're in your office or whatever and you're getting ready to go out and you just have 2 minutes, you can put yourself into a light hypnotic state so quickly by just doing what you said, like, telling yourself to relax and getting into a relaxed state and getting focused. You can get into those lighter states really easily because that's where we live in those states often. And
Yes.
then, what you did though is you did an NLP technique, and it's super common. A lot of those coaches and everything use it all the time, and it's so effective in creating change in your life. It really is, and you can use
Yes.
that to bring anything you want, any change you want into your life. And so that's what we do in hypnosis is like we get you really deep, you create those experiences and you really feel the most important part is really feel every element of it. So if you wanted to visualize yourself actually walking in there like a powerhouse and just really nailing it, you go through the whole scene in your mind of what you want it to look like and get the smells, the feels, like the textures and the feeling as well though, the overall feeling and the
Yeah.
visuals all the way down to like, what the door handle feels like, when you walk in the room. And then you envision it exactly how you want it, and then when you come out of the hypnosis, you wanna kind of back it up by, sort of simmering in that feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever done that where
Yeah.
you just sort of like, "Okay, I got the feeling when I was meditative, and now I just wanna kind of return to it and just let it simmer and just kind of almost brood on it." You know what I mean? Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that felt good," like when you wake up from a good dream and you're just sitting there and you don't wanna let it go, you just feel it. It's kind of like that feeling
Yeah.
where you just sit in the
Yeah.
feeling and then it solidifies it and then there you go, you have your change.
Yeah, and you know what? I know that I've thought about this before, but it kinda just occurred to me as you were saying that is what we're doing in a very opposite way when we're sitting around anxious about an
Mhm.
experience that's coming up. I can't tell you how many times I've pictured feeling uncomfortable and anxious, and you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And bad interactions with people, like, oh, they're gonna this, and and then I'll have to respond like that, all the things. um yeah, and no wonder this is so effective, because you're just reversing all the shit you were afraid of.
You're just undoing the stuff that your brain does unconsciously. Where if we
Yes.
let our brain take over that survival instinct. So I like to talk a lot about, the ego and the soul. And the ego to me is really just survival instinct. It's
Hmm.
what our bodies are doing to try to survive. And our brains, we're if we're mean to people to be funny so that other people like us more. That's ego, because you want to belong, you want to fit in, you want to survive because you want your pack
Yeah.
to accept you. So and on a soul level, it's that thing that you were talking about, that connection. That's the soul. That's what we feel like when I'm like you, I hate small talk. I
Yeah.
go out there and I'm like, just please don't ask me how my kids are. They're great. I'm going to say great, even if I can't, even if they aren't, because I can't say anything else. Like, what is this? Why are we talking about
Right.
this?
Or how your weekend was.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I don't know, my weekend was great,
It
that's
was
the only answer you're
fun.
allowed to say, like, what is that?
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
But that connection, that draw you in, that's your soul, that's that spark, that thing that runs between all of us. And,
Yes.
um, and so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
That's
I
fine.
lost
I
my train of
also
thought, so.
was very drawn to the fact that on your profile, you said that you have found that we are all one and have, like, I don't know how
Mhm.
you word it. We're all God. We all have this thing. And I think that's really the answer I've come to as well, after
Yeah,
doing so much work, and like very intentional work, to see how I was mirroring others and they were mirroring me.
yeah.
And I was very determined to see it in every scenario, because I don't know if you're into astrology, but I'm a Leo moon. So my ass was real egotistical in that, like, everything revolved around me. Like, I
Mhm.
could, even if I could see it from your vantage point and know that you were experiencing suffering as well, mine was worse somehow.
Right.
So, like, only if it involved us two. I wasn't like a one upper, but like, especially in my marriage, like,
Mhm.
we could both be really stressed about a situation, but my stress mattered more.
Mhm.
And also the fact that you don't think that tells me you don't love me.
Mm.
So I was really determined to, I'm going to use this, it's very strong language and I don't really mean it this strongly, but like, rid myself of that. Like, that's
Mhm.
I figured it out. Like, that's my life's work on myself, is to like step out of this place that says I matter the most, or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, so I very intentionally started seeing that pattern. Like, okay,
Yeah.
how am I just assuming something about them because it's something I know subconsciously to be true about myself, or believe it to be true, or whatever. And man, that's where I really unraveled a lot of self-hatred and didn't even know. But also, once I got to the bottom of it, and was so intentional of like, okay, how can I see that I do this too? It may look different, but like, how can I see the me in them so that I can offer them the compassion that I'm offering to myself? Because that was the
Right.
first step, was knowing myself, loving myself, being compassionate with myself. And then as I could see, you are me and I am you, I can now offer that compassion to you
Mm.
too. And
Yeah.
that's really where I got on the evolution of like what God is like, we are all this one thing.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's such a duality too, because we are all that one thing, but then we're all something different from each
Yeah.
other. And
Yes,
like
we're also human.
we're all so human and we all have such big flaws and we're just all honestly, we're all just trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Even those people that you think have it figured out, they're still trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And so I try to and I think what you're talking about, it just sounds like you were holding pain.
Yeah.
You went through something and then so you were trying to get that attention back so that you could get that love and that security that you were looking for.
Mhm.
But then you found out that you had to correct me if I'm wrong, seems like you found out it was in you
Yeah.
and that you had to love yourself. and that other people did love you as much as you wanted to be loved. You just and I mean, you're preaching to the choir because I'm the same way, it's like we grow up and we feel some of us, right? We can feel like we're lacking this love in our lives. And to me it always comes back to love because that's
Yeah.
the thing that connects us. That's the thread that runs through us. That's made of pure love and acceptance and truth, right? That truth is just love. And when we go farther away from that, it's usually something within ourselves that we have to correct. And it's
Mhm.
not even like, "Oh, you did something wrong, you have to correct it." It's like, "Oh, like, what were you lacking? Okay, you're the one that gives that to yourself." Does that make sense? Am I making
Yes.
sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was such a big lesson for me, and I wish that we could just, like, give that to people. Like, just here's the lesson, and you don't
Yeah,
have to,
yeah,
like, live in pain to get there.
yeah,
Part of me wishes that, but
yeah.
also I know, like, the 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 polarity and duality is the thing that gets you where you're supposed to be,
Right,
or further along anyway, because
right.
I am at a place where I can say, like, I'm very grateful for every horrible thing that has ever happened
Mhm.
because you it's the contrast. You can't, like, feel this amount of light until you've experienced that amount of darkness.
Yeah. And, like, that's why we're here, to experience everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's so
and
hard though.
the place where I always struggle is, like, in my relationships because so I recently did this my first season 2 episode this year was I would loved it. I really it was a really deep meditation, and basically you just go out into the universe, you meet this, like, angelic being, and you're just held and loved and made to feel accepted, and I come out of the session and I'm thinking, like, "Why can't I just be like that with everybody in my life?" But me as a person, as a human, I can't because, well, first of all,
Right.
I would just probably burn out and be so tired.
Yeah.
The second of all, like, there's people that I'm, like, so irritated with that I don't wanna do that, but I still
Yeah.
want them to feel that. Like, I don't not want them to have that, but, like, my ego is
Yeah.
like, "No, like, I'm not gonna, like, love you in that way right now," because I'm still
Yeah.
human. I'm a person. But, but the soul in me, that's I can see clearly that's who I am and that's what I want. I want for everyone to feel that loved and nurtured, but I can't bring that to everybody personally because
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
can't be the
damaged.
deliverer or messenger of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I really struggle with this actually because as I work through forgiveness of myself and others, there are still people that I don't necessarily want to be around, people from childhood,
Mhm,
people I'm related to, whatever.
mhm,
And I struggle because I can absolutely have compassion for their experience and why they've done the things that they have done. Where I'm going to use this for lack of a better term, stuck, I
mhm,
feel a little bit, is I don't want to progress any further in a relationship with them or try to repair because it would
yeah,
still be very one sided. I can bring all the love and I can try my damnedest to not be hurt by the things I know they're going to do or
mhm,
say. I try so hard to come without that ego and know, like, this shit's not about me, it's about them.
mhm.
And I can't. So, like, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
continue to stay away.
And, I think and for me, what I found is I've got a few of those relationships that I can nurture, and I can't handle the other ones. Like, there's too many people that have been in my life that have been that difficult, but there are some that I want to nurture that relationship. So, I came up with this I was just talking about this morning actually on my podcast, but I had this vision, 2 years ago, and it was, a person's figure, someone in my life that I was, like, struggling with this very thing with, and, it was just like a clay figure of them, and it was like they showed like a butter knife just cutting it down the middle, and the pieces fell aside, the body fell aside, and inside was this beautiful flower, and the flower was the soul, and the
Wow.
message was, nurture the flower. So, like, in those relationships where you have the energy to do that with, you say, like, okay, so is when it's a hard situation, when they're doing the thing that they're gonna do, you just say, like, "Okay, well, is this the soul or is this the ego?" And what I realized after 2 years of thinking about this whole thing is when you're, like, catering to their ego, it actually does zero good. It doesn't do them any good because the ego's a bottomless pit that can never be satisfied. It doesn't do you any good because the ego's a bottomless pit that can never be satisfied, so you'll just be
Yep.
exhausted trying. And, if you're feeding their ego, it's just growing their ego, and that's not what we want, right? Like, we don't want more ego
Right.
on this planet, we want more love. So but then, when you see them interacting with you in that connection, in that soul way, from the soul, you're free to enjoy the energy exchange and back and forth and the love, you know?
Yeah, and
So
I
in my
think that's
mind
what stops me is I feel like these people aren't gonna go there. It's just
right.
surface, it's just you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, these
Then
are
there's nothing to
people.
do. There's
Yeah,
nothing you can do
okay.
about it.
Thank you, apparently I needed that
Yeah.
because, like, because that's what stops me every time is I'm like, "Yeah, I can 100% forgive this, like, I really
Mhm.
can. I can even, release the energy of that pain." But when I get in their presence and it's just the same shit and they're not going deep,
Yeah.
like with my friends, because honey, listen, I surrounded myself with a bunch of emotionally unavailable people that were just like me. Like, they were very happy to let me fix them and, whatever
Mhm.
so that I could avoid myself, blah, 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 all the things. Um, there are some people that like I'm so in love with this relationship they haven't necessarily taken some of the steps that I've
Yeah.
taken, and it feels a little more like small talk sometimes than
Mhm.
true connection. But I know that that connection is there, and at any time, I could feel safe to go there with them, and I'm gonna continue to nurture those connections because
Right.
it's hard for me. It is hard. I'm it's hard,
Yeah.
and I stay isolated a lot because it's like I hate small talk, and I don't like that feeling, but they do mean a great deal to me, and I know that their soul is so good, like, and we
Mhm.
are meant to be in one another's energy. Very few of my old friends, but still, like, they are there
Yeah.
versus these other people, I just already know they're
Yeah.
not going to go there. I could never even like, I could apologize to them for my part and say, like, "I know where I went wrong. I know all the things I did to be harmful and hurtful to others." And then there wouldn't be any, like, next step. We're not gonna, like, talk about the stuff you and I talk about, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? They're just
Yeah.
gonna shit bitch like they always do, and then nitpick me like they always do,
Right.
and it's like, what's the point?
Right. And then you're left with because you're human, you're not this realized being, you're left unraveling all of that after you interact with them. You're left with reinserting who you are and loving yourself and undoing all of whatever criticisms you heard or processing all of that.
Mhm.
And it's just it doesn't do anybody any good. And
Yeah.
so you can love them and forgive them and still not pursue any relationship. It's
Yeah,
okay,
I
you know?
always just that I think this may be more of a human feeling, but
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm not evolving enough. I'm judgmental about myself on this. I think because of the
Yeah.
human standards that people set on us about cutting family members off, like
Mhm.
going no contact with people. And I'll admit, I don't talk to hardly any members of my family, like
Mhm.
extended or otherwise, maybe four. So, like, aside from my siblings, but like, they don't give me peace in any way, shape, or form. But the outside world, unless they're like thinking the same way we think, they don't allow that, because
Mhm.
we're surrounded by a bunch of codependent enablers and meshed family systems, but I still will judge myself as if I'm not healed enough or spiritual enough or whatever if I can't tolerate. But I'm like, damn, they just irritate my spirit.
Mhm.
I just
You know, and
can't.
and it's not only like society, the current society, it's the past 100 or so years of religious people, like spiritual communities, all of this, like the religious and non-religious spiritual communities
Yeah.
kind of have this thing where like your goal is perfection, so act like you're perfect, but you're not perfect. And like, sure, if you were a realized being, you could just be around everybody and it all bounces off of you and it's great. You're on a journey. And
Yeah.
if, and you have to love you. You're part of that. You know what I mean? You're part of that one love.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of that part of you. in order to grow it and grow it in our world, right? You're doing a service to our world by being the best person you can be. That's the best thing you can do right now, right?
Yeah.
Is like be the best version of yourself for your kids and your family and everybody else that you come into contact with. If you're surrounding yourself with people who are constantly making you feel horrible, you have to constantly build yourself back up. And like, there's no room for making a better world. It's just,
Right. It's
right?
just repairing on the
It's
daily,
just
like putting
preparing.
Band-Aids on things.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's why I'm all about taking the pressure off of us to be perfect and to
Yes.
put the pressure on instead of doing everything you can to make the world a better place. And if that means cutting off family members because they're making you feel horrible all the time, that's what you do. You know, I've got family members I don't
Yeah.
talk to, and it's hard, like, because there's a rift, and that's rough. But I mean, I know for me, I can't I can't live under the circumstances that it was creating because I'm
Right.
not a realized being. I'm not perfect. And
Yeah.
when I get hurt, I feel hurt, and then it takes me forever to get unsalty so that I can then go
Yeah.
and be the
Yeah.
good person, that I
Yeah.
wanna be.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think what you're highlighting for me is that this is another sneaky area where perfectionism pops up for me.
yeah,
I
for
like I
sure.
wouldn't have framed this as perfectionism, and now I'm seeing another way that I
100%.
struggle with that. And I that's
Yeah.
my journey. Like perfectionism battling, that's my journey for sure. That
Mhm.
and love. Like, I had to cultivate that love first. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is just understanding all the ways in which I hold myself to this fucking cross of perfection. Like you're not doing it right if you're not doing it this way or whatever. And I'm getting a lot better about that, but man,
Yeah.
it really does take other people pointing it out for me. Because when, like, if you hadn't used the word perfect or perfection, I would never have made that
Right.
connection.
You had to lay
I,
it
I
out real clear.
recognized I was judging myself, but
Yeah.
against what? Oh, a perfectionist standard.
Mhm. Right, exactly, and we're not
Yeah.
perfect. And
Yeah.
I love to break that down because, so for me, I it took me saving a family member's life with a loaded gun in front of me, in an
Wow.
unstable, like, physically unstable person's hands, like, the gun could have just accidentally gone off while I was saving his life, to finally realize that it was not gonna be enough. What I had just done was not going to be enough, and I was
Uh-huh.
still going to be expected to be everything after that. And that's when I realized, wow, like, I've taken on too much trying to just be a good person, trying to just always be perfect. And I noticed that I wasn't able to be as present for my kids. I wasn't able to be
Uh-huh.
the mom that I wanted to be for them because I was too busy trying to be good everywhere. So that's when everything changed for me, and I had to start really looking at my relationships and my relationship with my entire family and where I stood in that. And it's taken a good 2 years to come out on the other side of that and really have a good understanding of who I am and feel okay with the choices that I had to make in order to, be a
Yeah.
better version of myself for myself and for my kids. And I always try to also deconstruct, like, if my kids weren't in the picture, this still should have been the right choice. And I don't even know if I'm quite there where I can accept that yet. But
Yeah.
one thing I like to do too, though, is I like to think of my own kids in the situation I'm in and think, what would I tell them? If it was
Uh-huh.
just them, no kids of their own to think about, I wouldn't want them in the situations that I was in,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I think that's where some of my guilt comes from, is because my boys have such a huge capacity to just overlook shit. Like with family members, the shit that they do that drives me absolutely bonkers, they're like, yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not about me. And I'm like, I know it's not about me either, but it still really gets me. Granted, they're not as
Yeah.
hypercritical of them as they
Yeah.
are to me, but
Yeah.
still, just some of the things
True.
I'm like, and then I'm like, oh gosh, well, I guess if I want to be a better person. But you're right. I think this is just an area where like I'm resistant, because
Mhm.
I'm stuck in that like you are supposed to or you should. And I can just be and just
Yeah.
accept that I don't want shit to do with them. But I mean, I am at a place now, at least, because there were some family members that if you just mentioned them in front of me, my entire body would tense. I
Mhm.
could not deal.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like, that happens a little bit, but then I can easily get into that love and be like, I send them, love and peace
Mhm.
and want the best for them, but that's not gonna come from me.
Right, exactly, like what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's what that started this whole, like, in the beginning where I was like, I want you to feel good, but I don't want to be the vehicle," you
Yep.
know?
Well, yeah, and I think that there's a big difference in doing things from a place of love and compassion for yourself and others and doing things from a place of spite.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I was very motivated by spite in my former life and just very I need to prove everyone wrong. I need to prove myself wrong and show that I am this and I can do this and whatever. Just a lot of really maladaptive coping, but also, I mean, I really was surrounded by a bunch of really toxic people
Yeah.
who would say really awful things to my siblings and me about who we were and who we would
Mhm.
be when we grew up because they, had beef with my mom. And I'm like, I don't, I can't imagine talking to a child in the way I was spoken to.
Yeah.
But the programming I received was, I'm not good enough for love and belonging within this family, but I'm gonna show them and I'll be the best of this
Yeah.
family. And that was my goal for years and years. So, like, I made all the right decisions for all the wrong reasons. All my childhood trauma, it was left in childhood. Like, I mean, yes, I've experienced the effects of it my whole life without realizing it, but
Yeah.
I didn't I must have been so tapped in a way that I was so unaware of with my highest self because I did not choose wrong with partners.
No.
Yes, I've been married twice, but and I'm a psycho in relationships, so I can tell you 100 things I've done wrong. But l- more often than not, women who have experienced what I did in childhood, they don't pick the men that I have picked, quiet, stable, loving, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like,
Mhm.
they just don't, and I
Yeah.
did, and I praise myself for that. Like, I was smart enough to have done something different because when I was, like, really young, like, teenage I did go for the men that I could fix, the boys or
Mhm.
what anyone that needed me or whatever,
Yeah.
and, of course, I saw that in these men too, like I'm drawn to the quiet type because I'm gonna draw out your mystery and all the things. So, yes, I was
Right.
trying to fix them, but at least I wasn't trying to fix some of the like, the stuff my mother would have, like, she was an addict, she was with addicts, there was violence,
Yeah.
like, all the things. I could have very easily perpetuated that cycle, and I didn't, and I'm not saying that to shame people who have perpetuated that cycle,
Mhm.
because
Right.
God knows I don't shame you for that. But I'm proud of myself because
Yeah.
that's probably some of the best decision making I've ever executed because
Yeah.
it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And I am proud of that, but also I just think like I didn't know how to make decisions consciously that were good for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know what was good for me. I didn't know to care about what was good for me. I mean, we're taught in
Mm.
childhood to separate from ourselves so early on
Yeah.
from conditioning that says serve to your own demise and put the comfort of others ahead of your own and make me look good while you're doing it. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
really what I took into adulthood with me.
As girls, we definitely are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
It's a
sure.
scary world for little girls,
It
man.
really is. I have a 9-year-old, and I am constantly watching her people pleasing. We don't instill this in her at all. It just comes out, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Girl, you gotta stand up for yourself, you know? You gotta speak for what you want and stand up for
Yeah.
yourself because this is not a world for us. We have to make it our world."
Yes. It's
You know?
so hard because especially so my daughter's gotten she's 11, I don't know if I said that already.
Yeah, you
She's
did.
gotten the worst version of me because the mental health crisis, all the things. Like,
Mhm.
she just got the most unavailable version of me. And so the last couple of years have really been spent repairing our relationship, her, me, all the things. Um And one of the first things that I had to see was, I can't make her see that. Like, she's
Mhm.
going to go through these things, and I started envisioning her, like, resenting me, like, you know those Lifetime movies or the Hallmark movies where, like, the type A daughter has, like, this hippie ass mom who's, like, into the
Yeah.
woo and she can't stand her
Right.
and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't want that either."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, Melissa, like, you're still not meeting her where she is if you're trying to, like, change her in any way. Like, this is who she is right now. All I can do is provide the information." But it was so hard to watch her, like, do things she didn't necessarily wanna do,
Mhm.
but at least where we are now, the evolution is that she will allow me to be her voice, whereas
Oh,
before it was like, "No, we have to do that," like,
yeah,
because I
that's
don't wanna
great.
upset people, and
Yeah.
now she'll kinda be like, "Will you tell them no?" Like,
Yeah,
you know
I
what I
love
mean? And
that.
I'm like, "Hell yeah, I will."
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good. Baby steps, she'll get there.
Yes, exactly. Her little
Yeah.
Virgo rising ass. But that's why, like, last year, it hurt me so bad because she had a couple of teachers who were just characterizing her like she's a kid who doesn't care about school and blah, blah, blah because she was fucking struggling in math.
Oh,
And I'm like, and I wouldn't have even allowed her to attend this conference if I had known that this is how they were gonna talk about her. 'Cause she loved those women, looked up to them,
mhm.
wanted nothing more than to please them. And so I was like, "Yeah, I don't that's not how I would characterize this. I actually think she cares too much. And so she gives up before she starts because she's got a belief that she's not gonna be able to understand this. You
Yeah.
all are reinforcing that belief." Pissed me off so bad, but, like, she sees me advocate for her in a way that I never did with my boys, sort
Yeah.
of with the middle one, because he was born to be a middle child, and he did a
Yeah.
really good job of it, but, like, that oldest one, he got no advocacy, none,
Mm.
because I was such a people pleaser myself, and I freeze or fawn in public in any kinda conflict? So,
Mhm.
like, I think that my daughter and I kinda receive this level of healing together every time, like, I stand in for her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving her what I wasn't given as a child, I'm giving her what she wasn't given before, and it gives me something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have hope for this generation of girls. I think they're going to be stronger because I feel our generation is the one that's really pushing. It was a cycle, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
have to give credit to the generations before us too. But this generation of women is really like, okay, like we need to set some stuff straight here, and we need to stop people pleasing. We need to stop giving in to whatever it is the world wants of us and start looking at ourselves and being strong within us and giving it to ourselves. And that goes back to what we were talking about with the relationships. You want to give to yourself on an equal basis. Maybe we don't become self-directed and self-absorbed and always looking for out for ourselves only, but at least we can share the spotlight, put ourselves in it a
Mhm.
little bit, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there, and maybe you would say the same thing that you've already said, but if is there like a summary or an actionable takeaway that you would say for our audience?
You know what I always like to say is just that I think if you go out and you try to find one way to really connect with someone every day, someone that you don't normally connect with, even if it's just someone you're checking out, they're checking you out at the grocery store or, you're at the gas station, you see someone and you really, instead of just giving them the hi, the fake hi, just really try to connect with someone or tell a joke or something every day. And you start to focus on that feeling of that part where we're all one and,
Mhm.
that true connection instead of small talk, real connecting. Hello, how are you? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
and see what happens, see how your life changes. Because I think for me, connection is everything, and that love between us all, that's everything. And if we just keep growing that, I think everything else starts to melt away. All of our other issues get smaller because
Yes.
we are getting back to our core of who
Oh,
we
that's
are.
so true. That's so true. And it's the intention behind the words, how are you? That
Exactly.
the energy that you're bringing forth when you do that. How
Mhm.
are you? I feel awkward and want to cross, but don't know how to do it without saying something. Or how are you? Is there a way that we can connect right now? That's very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and be open to the answer not being fine, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when they say how they are, like care, like get
Yeah.
into that heart space and care. Allow
Yeah.
yourself to feel for a minute. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm guilty as hell of the previous versions of me being really unable to feel my own discomfort when somebody else gave me their pain.
Mhm.
Like I could to a certain extent, but if it brought up too much, I couldn't. I couldn't hold that for myself or them. And
Mhm.
now I really just try to be the container?
Yeah, right, and just, appreciate the true connection above all, you know?
Yeah. Well, where can we find you?
Okay, so my website is elizabethcatherine.com. Catherine's with a C, and everything's there. I've do private sessions in past life regression, healing, and learning to do intuitive readings for yourself. Anything goal changes, like we talked about earlier, focusing on, what you want to see change in your life. I have a podcast called Meditations and Self Hypnosis for Healing, where we actually do every week a self hypnosis or guided meditation, and they're pretty fun. I like them. I do them myself. And that's it. I've got some workshops coming up, but nothing solid yet. So if that's your thing, keep an eye out on my website.
Awesome. I love it. And I'll make sure I include all of those links in my show
Okay.
notes. I
Sounds
really
good.
appreciate you so much. I'm
Yeah.
going to stop, but if you'll hang out for 1 second.
Okay. Sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.